Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me once again for Learn Photography with Duck. I am your host, Duck, and we are in between the holidays. Thanksgiving just got done, and now we have Christmas to look forward to. And hopefully you all had a great Thanksgiving. I was just talking with Bonnie a little earlier about, my Thanksgiving was fairly quiet. Thursday was actually spent with my wife at home. We actually got a big white rotisserie chicken and we did the fixings. So that was kind of nice. But Saturday, I actually went over to our daughter's house and spent time with the grandkids. And actually, I want to share something with you. Let's see. Here we go, Lightroom edition. I went and took I went and took my lighting kit with me because I was asked to take portraits of the grandkids for my daughter's Christmas card. Okay. All right, hold on. Give me a second. Let me just pull up my website. Client. All right. And so what I did is I just set up my lights in the living room, and the kids had their traditional Christmas ugly sweaters, and it was basically just to photograph the kids. But of course, we needed to get mom in there at one point, and her boyfriend. All right, hold on, let me pull up. Okay, let me go ahead and share the screen. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see this without having to do a screen share, right? But what I did is I took, this is the youngest one, took a picture of him with his ugly sweater. Then went to the older one, of course, had to get mom in there fixing him up. Got this, all right? And then I got the two of them together. This is what ended up on the Christmas card, okay? So I have two backgrounds for that I have for Christmas. This one here, which is it's kind of cheap, but it's festive enough, and it's kind of made of that. It's a really weird polyester material. Unfortunately, it's horrendous. It wrinkles very easily. You can probably see a little bit of the wrinkle here, right? But it is what it is. It was fun, all right? And I have a second one. Now, normally, the last time I used this setup, I had one on top of the other. And all I had to do is, if I need to change, I just grab the front one, flip it over the light bar, or the background bar, and then I have my second one there. What I did not do is I did not check to make sure that I was putting them up properly. For some reason, one of the backdrops ended up upside down. And as soon as everybody saw this, they all started laughing. It's like really funny seeing all these upside down Christmas trees. And then the hilarity ensued. Oh, we have to get our picture taken in front of the upside down trees. Okay? So I took a couple pictures, and the idea came up that we were going to take their dog's head and superimpose it onto my daughter's and her boyfriend's bodies. Okay. So I said, oh, well, we got to do this right. And I came up with the idea of recreating that traditional American Gothic painting, the one with the farmer and his wife holding the pitchfork. And we came up with this one. It was just hilarious. And of course, they're going to be sharing it amongst their friends. And I said, you have to keep track of how many people actually figure out that those Christmas trees in the background are upside down. So anyhow, I just thought it was kind of funny how organically this concept came about, all from a mistake of putting a background upside down. So let that be a lesson. Be open to suggestions and ideas, as crazy as they may sound. You never know what you're going to come up with. So anyhow, that was my weekend with the grandkids. So hopefully you guys had a suitably good time as well. Anybody got any stories they want to share?
Can I show you some pictures from from the grandchild over the holiday?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to share.
Oh, right, you went to Seattle.
I went to Seattle, yes. Do the screen. Share the screen. And I put it away. Hold on 1 second. I cleaned things up yesterday. Now you're saying everything that's up.
At least in your pictures.
I will.
Go ahead, somebody else do something. I'm going to stop sharing.
I spent mine on the couch because I had my booster the day before and I was not busy.
See,
Yeah. Well, Bill mentioned that you took some photos of you as a ghost, and I saw that you have that as your profile picture.
I do.
Yeah. Would you like to talk about that one?
Well, that was taken. I went this weekend to a photo thing up in Holyoke, Massachusetts, in a theater that's been closed since 1979.
Okay.
And that's where this picture was taken. It was one of the staircases up to the balcony. And it was a 10-second exposure where I was there for the first 5 seconds and then stepped out so that you could see the staircase through.
Oh, okay. So you did a in-camera double exposure.
Yes.
Awesome.
Oh.
That's even better than Photoshop. Do it all in camera.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. You happy with the way it came out?
More or less. There's more of them, but I'm not in focus. But as Carl said, a lot of those are out of focus. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I've got one of me actually walking down the stairs.
Cool. What was your aperture at? Do you recall?
Oh, I think not off the top of my head. Hang on, I'll look.
Because if it was a shallow aperture, that would lead to part of the problem of the out of focus. The second one, of course, is when you're photographing yourself. You kind of have to pre-focus and hope you land the focus.
Yeah, I sometimes have trouble with my focus anyway because of my bifocals. I think it's in focus, but it's not.
Oh, okay.
That's a constant problem for me.
Yeah.
That I struggle with.
Yeah, I have the same problem. it's weird because I know some photographers that are very comfortable keeping their glasses on as they look through the viewfinder. For some reason, I have a hard time with that. I don't find it comfortable. I'm always taking my glasses off to look through the viewfinder, but I have the diopter set, to make it, so that when I'm looking through, it's corrected to my vision. So that might be something that you might want to consider.
Well, the other problem I have is that it depends on what day it is whether my glasses are actually correct for me. So
Okay.
it's a thing my eye doctor knows about. We're working on it, but like if I'm not hydrated enough, my eye focus changes.
Okay.
So this was at f9.
Oh, okay. So it's a decent aperture. Yeah.
Yeah, we started at f14, I think, and then we worked our way till, because it was actually too dark at f14, so we worked our way up back to where we could actually see ourselves.
Right. And no flash for this. These are all
no flash.
available.
It's 10 seconds at ISO 100.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of tricks that we can use. One of the tricks that I use is I pay attention to what my focal plane is. Okay. And the focal plane is always going to be parallel to the camera. All right. So what I do is I'll put myself in a position where, I think I want to be within the scene. Okay. Then while I'm looking at the camera, I'm going to pay attention to what is in line with me to each side. Okay. Like, for example, in your image, I see that you have that railing, the banister right next to you. Okay. So what I would do is I would identify that point. Okay. Walk back to the camera, make sure that point is in focus. All right. And then because you have the depth of field with, f9, you can move within a couple of inches and still be in relatively good focus.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a pain in the butt.
I do notice that the light is glinting off my necklace.
Yeah, that's easy to fix too.
Yeah, no, it's a stainless steel necklace that has my father's ashes in it. He's the one that got me into photography, so I always wear it when I go on shoots.
Absolutely, good luck. It's a good luck charm, yeah.
And the anniversary of his death was when I won my first place ribbon. So.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Gee.
So it works.
Yeah, it does.
Awesome, that's awesome. Well, I love the photograph. That came out really, really great.
Thanks. That's the first time I did that. So, there were like 9 pictures I took, but that was one of my favorites. I got one in color, but I like the black and white better. Yeah,
it gives it a certain flair, it matches the mood of the environment. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was the dustiest, mildewiest, moldiest place and I spent like 5 hours there. It was fabulous.
Were you wearing a mask?
Nope. And I've been paying for it ever since.
Yeah.
We had a great time.
Yeah, one of the rules, if you're going to go into an old building, you should definitely wear some kind of respirator.
The fun part was when the police showed up, because somebody called the cops saying people were walking in and out of the theater with backpacks. So the cops came down to check it out.
Yeah. Was this? You said this was an event for somebody?
Yeah, it was. I can't remember their company. Their first names were Dave and Mike, and this is the 7th time they've been in that theater.
Okay. They're
going again this Saturday, and then they don't have anything scheduled until the spring. But yeah, so it was up in Massachusetts.
Yeah. It's always safe to warn the police ahead of time that something like this is happening.
Well, the guy came in and talked to us. He enjoyed talking to us. It was just like, I had to come check you out. Backpacks and a closed theater.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that. That was awesome. Anybody else want to share a story? Thanksgiving story? Photo story? No? Okay. Larry just joined us. Hi, Larry. How are you? Okay. So, what I wanted to talk to everybody today about is the fact that we are coming on to the end of the year. We are in December. 2022 is right around the corner. All right. And one of the things that I stress as far as organizing your images is that you should have uh, a somewhat compartmentalized filing system. And for example, the root directory for all my photos is in a folder called My Photos. And then any picture that I take goes into that folder. But of course, they don't just get jammed in there all on top of each other. I compartmentalize according to, very specific things. For example, if it's a client job, it's going to go into a client folder. Everything else is going to go underneath that root folder, but I segregate it by the year, right? Because I play with the strengths of the camera and of the software that I use. So for example, when you take a photograph, your camera is immediately going to assign it a sequential number, right? And it's usually anything from 1 to 9,999. And then it repeats, okay? And it's usually preceded by a prefix, usually, depending on the camera, it'll be IMG, usually IMG, or sometimes it'll be like underscore MG. It's like the I is missing. But whatever it is, and you can also customize it. You can assign your own prefix to the file names in camera as well. But the thing is, because those numbers get recirculated, you can't just put them all in one bag, because you'll start getting duplicates and one image will overwrite the other one, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The other thing that it does is it records a lot of the metadata that can be used. All right. For example, what kind of camera was used, what kind of settings on your camera. All right. And of course, if you have your date and time set properly on your camera, what date and time that photograph was taken, right? And it's this metadata that I have Lightroom read and use to tag all my images in order to organize them, okay? So the Lightroom reads all the images that I'm importing, reads all the dates, and says, okay, I'm going to take all these images off your camera memory card, and I'm going to load them onto your computer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder based on the date for each one of these images. So if you take a bunch of images on December 2nd, maybe 50 images, all 50 images is going to go into a folder labeled December 2nd. And if you take another 50 images on December 3rd, it's going to take those images and put it into a separate folder for December 3rd. Makes sense, right? Now, Lightroom allows you to configure how you want to organize your folders. And as I mentioned, what I tend to do is I organize them by the year. All right? Simply because, we kind of tend to be date-based anyway. We make all our appointments according to a date. All right. And we kind of tend to recall things by dates. And so I take that aspect of the software and the hardware and in order to automatically organize my images. Okay. So the first thing that I do at the beginning of every year, all right, if not a little sooner, is I will create a new folder under my photos folder for the new year. So because we're coming up into 2022, I'm going to create a folder called 2022. And every image from January 1st through December 31st, 2022 are going to go into that folder unless it's a client. Client folders have their own, client projects have their own folder. They go into my clients folder. Okay? But for the most part, the majority of the images that I create are going to go into the 2022 folder. All right. And then I have Lightroom say, okay, I am going to name the folder according to what you want me to name it. So the way I do it is I have when Lightroom brings in the images, it's going to create the folder based on the year first. So it'll label it 2022, the month, and the day that get imprinted on the images. Okay. Now, a lot of people have asked, well, if you're putting them into a 2022 folder, why do you need to precede all your folders with the year 2022? And that's for a little bit of redundancy, because if you've ever handled any kind of file movement in Windows or on Macs, you know that it's very easy to accidentally move a folder from one location to another. It's happened to me on multiple occasions. Not paying attention. I'm trying to move, something from here to there, and I inadvertently grab the wrong folder. And usually because I'm not paying attention, I often find that I don't know where I put it. All right. So now it becomes a game of hunting. Where did Duck put that folder? All right. But because, it's very limited as to what the choices are, I can usually find it within a couple of minutes. Okay. But by having that prefix of the year, I can very easily scan through and find a folder that does not belong there. Okay. Otherwise, it would just get lost in with all the other folders. So, for example, if I take a 2021 folder and I move it into 2019 and it doesn't have that prefix, November is November is November, no matter what year it is. Okay. So because it has the 2021, I can look in that 2019 folder and say, there's the odd man out, and I can put it back in its correct place. Make sense? Okay. So your job, if is to kind of make what's it called? Mental block. New Year's resolution for yourself, right? If you have not been organized yet, here's your chance. Get yourself organized photographically for the coming year. All right. Make a folder on your computer, regardless of what you've done to this point. All right. Moving forward, make a folder, label it My Photos, all right, or My Pictures, or whatever makes sense to you, and only use that for importing your images off your camera. And then in that folder, all right, and usually I put that under the root directory, all right, meaning your root drive is typically your C drive, okay? In your root drive, you're going to have My Photos, okay? And then there, go ahead and make yourself your 2022 folder. And then in Lightroom, let me go ahead and switch over. All right, if you want, go ahead and just enlarge my image. I'm going to try to avoid doing a screen share if possible. All right, but if it becomes too weird for you guys, let me know. Okay. In the library module. All right. Let's see. You will have, all right, so here you see I have my photos, okay?
Back here in the way.
I am. There we go. Thank you. All right, I have my photos, okay? And then right below that you'll see 2020, 2021. Oh, and I have a couple that are out of order here, okay? Goes into 2021. Okay. And what you're going to do is go ahead and create your 2022 folder. Okay. So where it says My Photos, let me just go ahead and create folder inside My Photos. Create folder inside My Photos. And you're going to put in 2022 and make sure that the include selected folders is unchecked. We don't need to move any folders or any images into there. And you're going to click on Create. And it's that simple. Now you have your 2022 folder, and of course it's going to be empty until January. Okay. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. Okay. Because on January 1st, or the first day after January 1st that you import your images, when you click on your import tab, okay, it brings up the dialog box, right? Over on the right-hand side, you have all your tabs. And the last one here, as you can see, is your destination.
Now you're in the way again, Beth.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Thanks, Jill. You're gonna be my eyes for this. All right. So you're gonna have right here on all the way on the right hand side, it says destination. Okay. And when you open that up, this allows you to choose where you want your images to go. Okay. And right now I have it set up where it's going to organize by date. Okay. All right. So it's going to pull the date off the files that are coming off the computer. Okay. And the format. Okay. Now my preference is to give the folder the date based on the year first, the month, and then the day in numerical format. All right. And of course you can do the written format, all right, in abbreviation, the written format in long form, or the numerical format with no dashes. Okay. For me, I find the numerical format with dashes the easiest to read. And it also makes sure that it keeps the order of folders in chronological order, right? Because the way computer systems work is it's going to organize things in alphanumeric order. And the way it works is there are a group of 5 or 6 characters, then numbers, and then letters. All right. So that means if I were to use the long form month or even the abbreviated alpha month, it's going to put April before January. Okay. And obviously, that's not how we think of the months of the year. We tend to say January, February, March, April. Okay. So that's why, for me, numerically makes better sense. Okay. Again, personal preference. Some people say, well, all I got to do is look at the long form name and I can see the blocks. Okay. Or you can say, you know what? I'm going to take it one step further, and instead of putting everything into that year, I'm going to create subfolders by month, okay, which you can do. So right here at the very top of this list is that ability to organize folders by subfolders based on the month, all right? And of course, the first three is, you can create the folder 2021 and then 12, all right, or December, and so on, okay? And what method you use, obviously, is personal preference. The thing is, you want it to make sense to you. You want it to make sense to you because you want to be able to find these images not only through Lightroom, but outside of Lightroom. If for some reason you need to grab an image, especially maybe something that you've already edited in like Photoshop, okay? Photoshop's going to dump the edit back into the original folder. If you need to get to that file, you can do it without having to open up Lightroom. But you need to understand your filing system in order to be able to navigate to that specific file in order to find it. And this is where organization comes into play. Okay? So again, for me, it makes good sense to keep all my annual photos in that 2021, or this coming up 2022 folder. Everything's compartmentalized. I can look down my growing list throughout the year, and I can just see by date. All right. If I know the date, I can very easily find it by the date. And of course, you know me, what I tell people to do is when you import, you're going to append whatever Lightroom does. Okay. Whatever Lightroom does, you're going to append a real world title that explains to you in real world language what the contents of the folder is. Okay? All right. So this is where you would do it. All right. By date. All right. How you want to organize it. All right. And then you're going to go ahead and select your 2022 folder. And then you can see everything's going to land inside that 2022. Now, the nice thing about this is once you have this set up, you don't have to worry about it. Every time you import images, it's going to remember what you had set up the last time. It's going to remember that, and it's going to import it according to what you last did. So it kind of makes it a little bit of a no-brainer. You don't have to really think about it. Okay? All right. And that's pretty much it for organizing your images. Okay? Everything else, you don't have to, really doesn't pertain to organization. All right? But you might want to just look through and make sure that everything's okay. Okay? Any questions on that? It's a very simple fix, all right? And what's going to happen is moving forward, hopefully, if your library is a mess currently, hopefully moving forward, it'll get you a little bit more organized. Okay? And then at that point, the rest is what I call monkey work. If you want to reorganize your past year's library, then all you got to do is just kind of move stuff around into that new organizational file. And it tends to be fairly easy. Just make sure you do it inside Lightroom. Otherwise, Lightroom's going to lose track of what is moving where, and that's going to create a whole new headache. All right, make sense?
I have a question.
Yep.
So it's kind of a little hard to see. So with the things set the way they are, where does it pop up to show where to append? Is that something you just set every time? If you don't set it, what does it do? Or does it prompt you to set something?
All right. Well, because no, you're not going to get a prompt. All right, because Lightroom remembers what your last setting was.
Okay.
All right. So when the clock turns over from 2021 to 2022, all right.
Well, I'm referring to the real name. Like we've got this all set up.
Oh, I got you. Yes.
See, I took pictures of Fred, and on Thursday I took pictures of Ralph.
Yeah.
I want to be able to make sure that I don't get those mixed up.
Yeah, that part of it you do at the time of import, after it imports. All right. So you let Lightroom do whatever it's got to do. It's going to pull in all those images based on the date. And then you're going to go back in and say, okay, I need to give this folder, which only has numbers, a real world language prompt that reminds me of what's inside the folder. And at that point, you just go rename. And what I do, actually, you can see it. Let me switch over. You can see it right here. Okay. Where it has, like for example, here's 2011 folder. Everything underneath is 2011. All right. And you can see that 01 for January. And then the date that I took the photograph. All right. So that's the only thing that Lightroom's going to give you.
Okay.
What I then do is, because I'm working on that one particular folder, when I bring it in, I will say, okay, I am going to rename the folder. I'm going to keep that date, and I'm going to append a short descriptor of what the photo shoot is about. All right. So in your case, you just say photo shoot with Fred, or Fred's photos, or whatever tagline registers with you and triggers that memory recall.
So but I guess then that's, so you can do your import and then do a rename, or you can import it with the appendage.
No, when you import, it's only going to import and give it a base. It's going to take the EXIF information.
Okay.
All right. You need to go in and manually change it afterwards. All right. Simply because Lightroom doesn't know what the contents are. All right. All it can do is read whatever EXIF information the camera puts on the images. All right. And that's why the date stuff is so important. Okay. Because it gets stamped on every single image. And all it's got to do is read through all that EXIF information. It says, okay, well, here's a group, from January 1st, and here's a little group of images from January 2nd. Lightroom now knows I'm going to put these in one folder and these in a second folder.
Okay. That leads to another question.
Yep.
Don't forget Fred and Ralph. I took a picture of Mary and Sue on the same day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon.
Yep.
Now the next day I'm going to start processing photos.
Correct.
Better to What's that?
All right. This actually pops up quite often. So what I'll do is I will manually segregate the images. All right. So the way it works. All right. Let's say half of these images are one client and the other half are a second client. Just a per suppose. Okay. So what I will do is I will make whatever I import into that folder, it's just going to clump it all together. All right. And I'm going to give it a real world name based on one of those two groups. All right. I usually go with whatever's earliest. Okay. Then I will scroll down and find that division, that separates the first group from the second group. And I will highlight all of the images, click on the first image, shift click on the last. All right. And that's going to select all those images within that range. All right. Because those images I know were taken later in the day. Then I go back over on my left-hand side. I find the folder because it's highlighted right there. I will right-click and I will, no, I'm sorry, excuse me. I will not right-click on there. I will right-click on the parent, all right, the 2021. Right-click on the parent. Create folder inside 2021. And now I have to manually assign it its new name. Okay. So I will continue with the same format, 2021, right? What is it? 11-17, new name. Okay. Whatever the new name is. And before you hit create, make sure that the include selected photos is selected. Okay. And what that's going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create. It's going to, you can see it up here in the upper left corner, moving files. It's going to take all those images out of this folder and into, let me scroll down a little bit, into that new folder that you just created. Okay. And that's how you separate two jobs on the same day. All right. Unfortunately, software is pretty smart, but it's not that smart. Okay? It cannot differentiate what you did in the morning to what you did in the afternoon and knows where to put it. All right. You have to go ahead and manually do it. All right.
So is that moving it or copying it?
What it does is it moves it. It physically moves it into a new folder. Okay. So now if we look at the at my file structure, all right, let me go down. Photo, my photos, 2022. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2021. All right. You can see here is the original folder, and here is the new one that I just created. It says new name. All right. So it created that new folder on my system. All right. So I'm able to find it outside of Lightroom as well. All right. So if I click on that, here are all the images that got moved into that folder. Okay. That's simple. All right. But you have to do it within Lightroom. Otherwise, you're going to break things. If you go outside of Lightroom and try to do it, here, I'll do it like this. I'm going to move these back. All right. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and remove that folder. All right, and okay, let's go back. Photos, my photos, 2022. Oh, no, it's 2021. All right, you can see that I've removed that folder. Okay? So now I say, you know what? I'm going to take half those images, all right, and I'm going to put them into a new folder. So I'm going to go ahead and new folder, 2021, 11, 17, new folder. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click here. And I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to take all these images from here to here. Select, click on the first, shift click. And I'm going to manually move them outside of Lightroom from one folder to the other. Okay? Takes a few seconds. Now I have these images in that new folder that I just created, and this one here, we can see that they're missing. Okay? Now if I go here, all right, I go to my original folder, you're not going to see that new folder. All right, because Lightroom does not recognize the fact that I just made a new folder outside of its system. And if I scroll down to those images, you now see that they have a big exclamation point right there in the corner. Okay? That exclamation point is telling me that, hey, there's supposed to be an image here, but I'm not finding it on your system. The system is broken. Now I have to go in and manually find these images and realign the library. All right. So please do yourself a favor. Don't get into this kind of headache. Make sure that you do your file movement within Lightroom in order to keep yourself organized. Okay? Make sense? All right. But just in case, I'm going to go ahead and click on that little exclamation point. It gives me a warning, says, hey, I know you're looking for it, but I cannot find the original file. Would you like to locate it? All right, so I just say, okay, go ahead, locate. It opens up where it's supposed to be. All right, so all I got to do is go up one level, find the new folder, okay? And notice that it says find nearby missing photos, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and select, all right? The number that I'm looking for is 3205. So that's the first one. I go ahead and select that 3205. It's right here. You can see it right, filled it in. Okay. Again, make sure that find nearby missing photos is selected. Click select, and it is going to automatically search through, and voila, all those images are now missing from here, and they are in the new folder. All right. So it's not the end of the world. If you break something, it's fairly easy to fix, but you don't want to be going through this problem, all right, when you're reorganizing your images. So just make sure that you do it within Lightroom. Okay. Any questions?
One.
Okay.
What if you want to move the whole catalog?
Okay. Why would you want to move the catalog?
Well, because right now they're all on my hard drive. I want to get them off my hard drive on an external hard.
Okay. All right. So there's a couple of ways you can tackle this. Okay. let me adjust my camera here. All right. There's a couple of ways we can do this. You can say, okay, I'm going to create a dedicated drive, external drive for all my images. Okay. And I want the library to reside with that external drive. All right. At that point, it's fairly, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not as daunting as it may sound. Okay, it's a task. All right, so you got to make sure, one, that you have enough room on your external. Okay, and you want to copy from your hard drive to the external. All right, you don't want to do just a move. You want to do a copy. Right? Because what you want to do is you want to make sure that everything transfers over without any glitches. Okay? And because you're moving volumes at a time, you have to be very, very cautious about how you move the files. You want to be methodical so that you don't leave anything behind. Okay? Normally, it's said to take it in chunks. All right. So, for example, you might want to move by year. All right. Rather than clicking on the entire photo library and say, okay, move it over there. All right. You want to, go in chunks, easy chunks. All right. So you might say, okay, well, I did 75 shoots this past year. Okay. I'm going to take those 75 folders and I'm going to go ahead and move it into my external drive. All right. And then go get yourself a cup of coffee, go watch TV, read a book. It's going to take some time. All right. And then when it's done, come back and do a quick scan. Just make sure that everything lines up. All right. Before you do any deleting, you want to make sure that it's actually right there on your drive, on your external. Okay. Once all the files are over, okay, you still have the catalog that is attached to the files on the original drive. Okay. Now we need to move the catalog to the new drive and reestablish the link to the new drive. All right. And the nice thing is, if you do it properly, you're going to duplicate the file structure from your original to the copy. All right. So all the file names will be the same. All the folder names will be the same. And all the root folders are going to be the same. Okay. The only thing that's going to change is the drive letter. All right. So now we need to go and find where your library resides. Okay. And one of the easiest ways is to go into Edit, Preferences. Right? And it's going to pull up your dialog box. Let's see. I haven't done this in like ages, so give me a second. Let me find out where. Let's see. Let's see. All right, in the first tab, the General tab. Okay. A little bit down, you're going to see where it says the default catalog. Okay, default catalog, and right there it gives you where the catalog resides, what folder structure and the name of the catalog. All right, name of the catalog. All right. So all you need to do is just kind of remember that. All right. Then you're going to go ahead and open up your file browser. All right. You go F. All right. My Photos. Lightroom. All right. And here's my catalog. All right. And you can see that I even have two older catalogs, all right, from the previous upgrades, okay, that Lightroom did. All right, so I have going back to October of 2020. I should probably get rid of that one. I don't need that one anymore. Okay, all the way to the current one. Okay, and you can see it's the current one just by the date. All right, and you can see that it's open because just a little side note here. Notice that it has it looks like a duplicate, but it has the LOCK added to it. All right, that means it's active. All right, you cannot move this while well, it's not suggested you move it while Lightroom is open. You want to make sure that Lightroom is closed. And what I would do is I would just take all of this, move it to the new location. All right. Keep the same structure. All right. Lightroom, move it over. All right. And, well, do a copy, right? Then, when
you copy it, not move it.
Yeah, you're gonna copy it. All right. You're gonna copy.
Move, so.
Yeah, usually that's my bad. You're going to copy, all right, because you don't want to destroy anything just yet. You want to make sure everything works at the destination before you do any deleting of any of your originals. Okay, so you're going to have a redundant catalog here with redundant images. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to shut down Lightroom. You're going to move, there I go again. You're going to copy that folder over to the new location. Okay. So now you have two separate copies of the same exact library. Okay. You're going to relaunch Lightroom. And typically, the way the default is, when you relaunch Lightroom, it's going to use whatever library you opened last, and that's what it's going to use. Okay, but you can override this. Okay, you can say open catalog. All right, so file, open. All right, open catalog. All right, and what you'll do is you will navigate to the new catalog. All right. All right, so make sure you keep that reference. You're going to open up that new catalog. All right.
You have to put Doug, you have to make a folder called Lightroom and then new drive, and then put the catalog in Lightroom.
No, I would take whatever folder that catalog is in, whatever folder that in, just move or just copy that entire folder. All right, because as you can see, it has all your Lightroom settings, it has your backups, and all the other support folders. You want to make sure that that travels with the catalog as well. Okay? All right, so once you get to your new drive, all right, you're going to look on the new drive, you're going to find your catalog, all right, whatever the catalog name is, and then you're going to go ahead and say open. All right, I'm not going to open it because it's already open here. Okay, and then all hell's going to break loose. Because all the images are now on a drive that the copy does not recognize. All right, it says, well, it's supposed to be on the C drive. All right, I'm looking on the C drive. All right. Oh yeah. That's a consideration. Okay. We need to reassign the images to the new drive. All right. How do you do that? Oh, yeah. So you're going to go to the top. All right. Okay. You know what? You got me stumped now. All right. Because I don't remember how to give it the new drive association.
You have to synchronize it.
You have to synchronize it to the new drive. Because the copy is still going to recognize. All right. So this is what I would do. All right. In your Explorer window, okay, under all right, I'll call it the new library and the old library. All right, they're copies of each other, but one is the new one that you're moving to, and the old one is the one that you want to move out of. All right, so you're gonna look for your root folder for your old library. All right, and just rename it. All right, I usually rename it by putting an X at the end. Okay, put an X, usually like a capital X. All right. For me, anytime I see this X means that I've done something to break the link. Okay. Okay. It won't let me do it. You might have to shut down Lightroom in order to do it. Okay. It's preventing me from doing it. Shut down Lightroom. Rename your old file structure. All right. And then reopen Lightroom. Okay. Lightroom is going to want to find that folder because you renamed it. It can't. So there the link is broken. That's what we want. We want to break that association. All right. So we're basically on purpose breaking the links. Make sense? Okay. So now we go to our, root directory. All right. My photos. All right. Everything, all the images you see are going to have that little exclamation mark. Okay. So just go to the first one, click on the little exclamation mark, and follow the same procedure. Go to your new drive, navigate to where that file is, reconnect, all right, in order to create that new association, all right, and make sure that neighboring is find neighboring associations is clicked on, and it will rebuild your library automatically. Okay. It's a task. All right. It's something that's normally not suggested, obviously. All right. But it can be done. Okay.
Well, you should have to do it if you got a new computer anyway.
Correct.
If it's still on your hard drive.
Correct.
So
it is a chore. All right. But most users don't need to go through all this. Okay. All right. And this is the easiest way I found. All right. If you look online, some people will say to actually export your library to the new drive, but I find that to be very, very time consuming. All right. And it's accomplishing pretty much the same thing in the end. It's just going, it's a whole new circumvented way of doing it. Okay. That works with small libraries, but if your library is anything like mine, you got, thousands and thousands of images, that's a pain in the ass. All right. This is the way I would suggest doing it. Rake the link, reconnect the link, and it's done. You don't have to think about it. Okay. Make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
I'm going to get a new computer eventually, so I figured that for the new year I'd just move it to an external drive and leave it on an external drive.
Hey, guess what I'm going to be doing when my new computer comes in?
Right, but yeah.
Oh, actually, well, no, actually,
you're already on an external drive.
I am on an external drive. Well, no, it's a secondary internal drive.
Right. Okay. Yes, but.
So yeah, you can look at it as an external drive, meaning it's not the drive that has my Windows and all that stuff on it. Correct. It's a secondary dedicated drive.
I'm sorry, is your Lightroom software on that secondary drive, or is that on the primary?
It's on my primary.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's going to end up happening is when I get my new computer, I just take that drive out, plug it into the new one, go into my BIOS, so it recognizes it. It's going to pop up, and I will need to assign it its drive letter, and I just got to make sure that I assign it the same drive letter so that it makes the connection, right? If not, I have to go in and reconnect everything, which is a pain in the ass, all right? But I do have to move my catalog from the old drive to the new drive, all right? And the way my new configuration is going to be set up is I'm going to have a solid state drive for my software, all right, that's independent of all my other drives. So my OS and my software is going to go into a solid state drive, and everything else will be out of it. So at that point, I have to make the decision as to where my catalog is going to reside. More than likely, it's going to... Oh, actually, no, it already resides on my external. That's right. Duh. It's already there. So... all right. So yeah, I guess I'm all set. I just realized. Whew. It's not going to be. I hate moving into new computers. It's such a pain in the ass. Unloading. I have to, basically unload Lightroom from this computer in order for the license to transfer over. That's going to be, something new for me. I've never had to do that before. So that's going to be interesting. I got to move the license. I think it's just, the Creative Commons account that I need to relink to the new computer, and the license figures itself out I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So should be fairly easy. I'll let you guys know how it goes in real life after I do it. So, but I'm crossing fingers that it's going to be a fairly smooth transition.
Okay, well, I'll give that a try on my week vacation.
But again, make sure that your files transfer. Now, a word of warning from experience. Okay? The way I normally do it is I will have two windows open, two Explorer windows. All right. One for the drive I am moving out of, and one for the drive I am moving into. Do not confuse the two. All right? Which is very easy to do. All right? Do not confuse the two because they're going to look identical. All right? You want to make sure you do not inadvertently delete something you're not supposed to. All right? So that's why I say copy them first. Make sure that they duplicate properly. All right? Transfer the library, open the library associated to the new drive, scan through, make sure everything's correct, okay, before you do any deletion of your old stuff. Okay?
Yep, thank you.
All right. And if you have a backup drive, you might want to, back up at the same time, or make sure that your backup drive is synchronized to your current situation when you make that move.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, that was a great question, though. Made me think because I'm going to be going through all this, hopefully next month.
I just need to get some space on my hard drive.
Yeah,
so I figured that was the best thing to do. To move it.
Same here. You guys see the effect that an aging computer with memory being eaten up on a daily basis. Every time I do a job, it's dumping hundreds of megabytes of data into the drive, and its drive's getting smaller and smaller. So absolutely, I'm with you. All right.
Do you remember when you first got your computer? I got a 10 megabyte drive. I'm good forever. The Windows came out.
Yeah.
Blew everything out the water.
Yeah. I remember having to load Windows from floppy drives.
I did too. Then when I got
the really floppy drives.
Yeah. Yes, the real, the original floppy drives, the large ones.
Yep. Why they're called floppy.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Magnetic medium.
I had a friend once who worked in IT support line for some way back then when they had the program was on one and you put the other in your files, and this guy called without fail once a month that his disk was corrupted, and so they finally sent him a new disk, right? So they finally asked him, because he only needed the program disk once a month. Well, where do you store that when you're not using it? Oh, with a magnet to the side of the case.
Oh. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, no, it was the piece of There's a reason they always ask me to plug in.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it.
Yep. Back in the early 90s, I got a temporary job with HP in their in one of their facilities that dealt with mailing scales. And they had a server room with the old tape drums that you had to load in from the top. Oh my God, I remember friggin' having to switch those tapes. Thank God we don't have that technology anymore. What a pain it was.
We're all showing our age now.
Yeah. So.
Cards. The dots and the holes in them.
Oh, punch cards. Punch cards, yeah. I had to learn that in high school. They were being phased out as I was coming out of high school. So, yeah.
I was just phased in when I started working.
Yeah. I remember those. So, all right. Anybody got any other questions about organizing for the new year? Anybody got any questions about your current organization?
I know why I wasn't organized with those pictures I was trying to show. I never took them off my cell phone.
Oh.
They were holiday. Those were holiday pictures I took, and I edited them on the cell phone, and I sized them for 5x7 because when I make prints, I like 5x7, not 4x6.
Yeah.
And I uploaded them to Walmart because it's good enough for what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm showing people pictures instead of having them look at my phone, and the pictures are going to get bad anyways. But can I show you the two pictures that I wanted to show you?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, hold on, because there's something that I learned that I didn't know. Hold on a second. Let's do this. Let me come back to this. Back to this. Share screen. Do you see my desktop?
Yep.
Alrighty. This first picture.
Aww.
There we are. That's it. That's my granddaughter, and the reason why I'm showing this is because she's looking at displays that are in black and white.
Yeah.
And my daughter-in-law said that babies see the high contrast of these more than they see colors.
Yes.
Which is something I did not know.
Yeah, eyes are still being developed after they're born.
Okay.
Yeah, so the high contrast is good. Also, distance. They have trouble with distance. That's why everything needs to be up close for them.
So, Bill, what's the one color photo there?
What are you looking at?
Like right above her. Like there's the black and white ones, but then this one looks like it's blue and brown.
Oh, over here, that's a mirror. You can't really see it.
Oh, okay.
That's a mirror.
That's why it's in color. Got it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I will re-edit this to make that black and white.
No.
And here we are. Of course, you've seen these before in studios. Somebody, as I guess a shower gift, made this for her. Haley made 3 months. And being the crazy photographer that I am, my daughter-in-law set this up, and she could put the two pumpkins way over to the right, next to each other, up at the upper right, and I put them down. Being the crazy photographer that I am, I put them down here. And
look at that face. She's adorable, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
like you had anything to do with it, Bill.
Not directly.
Well, not unless she looks exactly like you, right?
But the beauty of traveling, I like to travel light. So when the newer cameras are good enough, we had a professional photographer for Thanksgiving taking family pictures out there. And of course, when she comes here, I'll use the good camera, but I didn't want to have to pack the good camera. And I don't like to pack anything more than I have to because I'm not a big fan of traveling.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. You'll get to practice your baby photo taking skills every time you go and visit them.
Yeah, I know. I should I should have known this 4 years ago.
Yeah. So.
When I had a seasonal job at JCPenney Portrait.
Yeah. I don't think you could pay me enough to do that.
No, I did it for a season to learn it, and if I had gone to if I had gone to any CCC convention before the summer before instead of the summer after, I would not have taken that job because you're allowed to spend before taking the pic. When you're in the studio, you're allowed to be with them for only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
At Christmas time, because it's packed and they even double book, you're allowed to be with them for only 10 minutes. So you have these crying children out in the lobby because it's double booked. And, of course, you're telling them on the phone, make sure you feed your little infant before you bring little infant in. And it was up to 3.5 hours before we were able to get to them. Then you have crying babies and and the lighting has to stay in the same place, and the settings are in there. And so when I went and I learned how from these two people who do portrait photography, you got to spend 2 hours with these people. You got to move the lights around and all this. It's like, I said, if I had known it ahead of time, I wouldn't have taken the job just to learn studio photography.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between that mill work, that bulk photography like JCPenney or the school photography, and more of a salon style photography where you can take your time. Then, of course, when you're doing salon photography, you're getting more for your work. You can spend a little bit more quality time.
In all fairness, something like a JCPenney portrait is good for people who don't have the money to spend a lot of money on photography. So you're getting it cheap. You're always getting coupons. You can go to the website and get coupons.
Yeah.
So that is where that type of photography is good. But what you said about salon, and I thought of this about that job and what a professional photographer is like, separate from that job, is a hairstylist told me one time, and she phrased it as, if you go to a chain store to get your hair cut, that's production. That's production cutting.
Yeah.
She called it production cutting. It's not like a salon. So photography like that it's production work. It's assembly line work.
Yeah. And and for the most part, that's why I kind of throw jabs at that type of photography. But and all joking aside, there are skills that you can learn from being in that environment. And if you do it for a length amount of time, you pick up certain habits that make your job easier and more effective. And that translates very well into any other kind of photography that you want to take on, especially if you're going to do any kind of studio work. Learning these shortcuts just helps. You may have the quality of time on your side in a salon setting, but having those little tips and tricks under your belt come in very handy in those situations.
I did learn how to get people to pose. There were things that I did learn. I told you I have difficulty, and you said if I could just come up with a couple of ones.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I found frustrating with that particular situation, not only do you have to please the client, but you have to please the boss and corporate, because corporate looks at every picture, and so you've got three different stakeholders that you have to, and I came up with the attitude, if I were to do that again, it would be me and client, not me and boss and corporate.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Anybody else got anything? No?
Something I'll never do again. Yeah, I learned from this professional photographer we had. I offered to pay for professional photography for the family. I wanted this because of 4 generations, but unfortunately the 4th generation couldn't make it. So it's 3 generations. And I noticed how this photographer worked with you. There's one thing she did that I would never do. I tried it yesterday at the hike. Say to 2 people, okay, just look at each other, and you're just sort of like look at each other. I did that to 2 guys who were together. Okay, now look at each other, and they both go, what? And it's like, okay, that's not going to be part of my repertoire.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends on the situation and the familiarity, But you'd be surprised what people would be willing to do for a photograph, though. It also depends on, how you portray your confidence to the people you're photographing. If you come across as fairly confident and sure of yourself, then they kind of relinquish a little bit of that apprehension and says, okay, I'm going to trust that you're going to do a decent job, And of course, if you give them that immediate feedback by showing them the back of your camera, it makes them relax a little bit more. And if you can explain why you're asking them to do something a little crazy, they tend to kind of follow along. You'd be surprised.
That one I won't do again. Again, it's a situation like a hiking group or biking group or whatever. That's not the main. Photography is not the main reason for the people to be there,
right.
Unless So, but the one thing I have done recently is some people just stand stiff. I'll say, just slant your body a little bit, because maybe somebody will just slant a little bit, and it just looks a little better instead of them being stiff.
Yeah. Yeah, it also helps to have a few witty comebacks or, one-liners that kind of breaks the mood. That comes with practice.
One thing I'll do is, this guy insists I take group pictures. One thing I'll do is say, I forgot to put film in the camera after I take the 3rd picture. Then they laugh.
Yeah.
One time, I'm not kidding, I had this man and woman together. I said, I knew them well enough I could do that. I said, smile and say sex. Sex. Okay, now smile and say better sex. Better sex.
Yeah.
The better sex one came out better.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, because it takes them out of their normal expectation, They're expecting you to say, okay, say cheese, and then when you throw them a curveball, it's like, you have to think about it. And then when they get the joke, that's when they relax, and that's when you can actually start getting to work.
The one thing they taught me in the studio with dealing with kids, get them to say, what's your favorite dessert? Pie! Or say ice cream. Or they would do things like, these were women who had kids, so they were really good.
Yeah.
They would say booger, booger. They would say farts, farts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because that's going to get them to crack up. Absolutely. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Yep. You got to And the trick is, you need to have these little tricks handy in order to get them from being stiff to being to relax in front of the camera within a very short window of time. So all the little tricks that you learn along the way, yeah, you gotta employ them. So awesome. Those are some good stories there, Bill. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to either share anything or got any questions? We still got time. Oh, I almost forgot. If you haven't checked the Facebook page, I did post the challenge, the photo challenge for the month, which is the still life triptych. If you're looking to push yourself a little bit out of the comfort zone, these challenges that I'm going to be posting is a great way. And my plan is, once you finish the challenge, go ahead and email me your results, and then on the Q&A session, our last session this month, we'll just have a discussion about how you got it, any problems that you faced, and how you overcame any challenges and things like that. So take a look on the Facebook page. It's the Still Life Triptych. Basically, what I want you to do is create a nice little still life. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. You want to be, fairly interesting. And you're going to photograph it during 3 different times of the day and or night. And the goal is to observe how the light falls on the subject over the period of the day, and see if you find anything interesting that the light is doing on the subject, okay? And it's going to start making you take some things into consideration that maybe you normally don't, all right? You may put it somewhere and then you observe it throughout the day and you say, well, you know what, this is kind of boring. Let me see if I can find a more interesting location for this setup. And then you just move it, maybe instead of an east-facing window, you put it to a north-facing window, or even outside under a patio awning, whatever the situation is, and the trick is to just look at how light interplays with your subject, throughout the day, from early morning sunrise, where you get that nice long shadows with the warm colors, all the way to the evening, where the colors start cooling off, and see what you get. Midday, you might get some hard shadows. Take a look at and see if the hard shadows are doing anything interesting with your subject. Okay? And the thing is, you don't have to photograph the subject from the same angle all 3 shots. All right? Because it's not about maintaining the same point of view. It's just to find 3 different lighting situations throughout the day. Okay? So take a look at that challenge. Hopefully you'll take me up on it, and we'll all share on the Q&A day on the 3rd week. Okay? Anyway, that's pretty much it. Again, I just wanted to share with you the fact that, the New Year's coming and you'll want to be prepared for that. Okay? All right. If there are no more questions, we can cut it early. Yeah.
Hey, Doug, on your assignment that you was just talking about.
Yep.
So you're taking 3 different photos of one particular item, whether it's face on or to the east or north or
correct,
west, whatever. But when we send it to you, there are 3 individual photos.
No, you want to combine it into a triptych. A triptych is a series of 3 images on one file.
Well, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Have yourself a good week, and we'll see you next week, next Monday, for Photoshop. Okay?
Thanks, Doug.
Thank
All
you,
righty,
Doug.
guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.